Oh man, you would think on a day like today I would have a lot to say, but I don't know. I'm almost at a loss for words
You
because
don't?
well, I guess I do. But Troy Stradford, I still can't believe what happened yesterday. Alex Donno alongside former Miami Dolphin Troy Stradford. Miami Dolphins, they come from behind. They're down 21 points when the fourth quarter starts. They score 42 points against the Ravens, 4 touchdown passes by Tua in the fourth quarter, 5 second half touchdown passes by Tua Tagovailoa. Both Jaylen Waddle and especially Tyreek Hill were absolutely electric yesterday. And Troy, first thing, man, we have a lot to get to. I obviously have to eat some
Yeah.
crow for some of
Yes, you
my
do.
Tua takes over the last couple of years. But listen, I'm more than happy because you guys forget I'm a Dolphins fan. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that immensely yesterday. I've got to ask you, Troy, as a player, because when
Yes.
I'm watching that game yesterday as a fan, okay, Miami heads into the fourth quarter trailing by 3 touchdowns. I had virtually zero hope as a fan that they were going to come back and win that game. Like that's when I start to
Okay.
think about, do I flip over to the red zone channel to see what's going on? Do I start tracking my fantasy team, especially after Lamar Jackson scored that 79-yard touchdown run? That took a lot of the wind out of my sails. Okay. You've been on the field for some incredible comebacks. I mean, you played with the guy who used to wear the number 13 in a Miami Dolphins uniform. So maybe you never felt like a deficit was, impossible to erase. But as a fan, I felt hopeless getting into the fourth. As a player, do you ever go into a situation like that thinking, man, today's just not going to be our day, or do you never give up hope?
First of all, we have to add something to your little comment there. Also played with Flutie in the Hail Mary pass.
Oh, yeah, you had
Right?
to bring that up, didn't you?
Absolutely. I think I just jabbed the Kings fans real quick. But I've been fortunate enough to play with some great quarterbacks, Flutie being one, Dan Marino being the other. And as an offensive player, you know what you have. You know exactly what you have. So with Doug or with Dan, we always knew we had time, we had a chance to come back and win this game, no matter what the situation was. Now, I played on a couple of teams where, all right, you get down by 14 points in the fourth quarter and you're looking at the clock out of the side of your eye and you're saying, keep ticking, stay in bounds, keep the clock going so we can get out of here. But when you're playing with talent, offensive talent, and you know they can't stop you, you always believe that you have a chance. Now, that's the player in me. The fan in me, I sent out a tweet after Lamar's 79-yard touchdown run, and I said, that's probably the ball game right there.
Yep.
I did not think that the Miami Dolphins could come back. However, I will add this. Yesterday was the first game in years that I can remember watching the Dolphins game and saying and not feeling like nervous. I just knew that they had firepower. By no means am I sitting here saying they're going to come back to win this thing, but it was just different to me watching this game because I see what they're doing on offense and I see that they can make some plays. So, it was like, some over here, some over there, but it turned out perfectly, right?
It sure did. And Tua Tagovailoa did something yesterday in a Dolphins uniform that had only been done by Bob Greasy and Dan Marino, and that was throw 6 touchdown passes in a game. And what I love most about it, Troy, because obviously 6 TDs in a game, that's a fantastic stat line no matter what. But the fact that 4 of those came in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
and the thing that's so incredible, and you know what? I was going to talk about the receivers, but I want to give Tua credit first because I give credit where credit is due. The last couple shows, this is our third show together here on the Extra Yard. The last couple of shows, I've come off a little bit like a hater. So let me give Tua credit where credit is due because he. I'm wondering, Troy, if this is the start of Tua really fully embracing his role as a franchise quarterback and fully blossoming in that Mike McDaniel offense. And this is going to be a situation where Tua goes on to have hopefully a long, prolific, incredible career as a Miami Dolphin. And then we can look back on this game on Sunday. We can look back on that Ravens win and that comeback and say, that's when this really started getting rolling for Tua. Because honestly, I think that game could be a turning point in his career. The confidence that man must have right now, I can't even imagine.
I believe Tua has always had the confidence. I truly believe that. He's been a very successful quarterback. Listen, in order to get a scholarship to Alabama, you have to have a great high school career, right?
Right.
So he was successful there. At Alabama, he was successful there as well. He's drafted number 5 in the draft. He had confidence. I keep going back to the Miami Dolphins just did not have talent around him, so he was pressing and he was trying to make things happen all the time. I go back to last 2 shows and I sat there and said, last few years, past Tua, we're looking at the Miami Dolphins in an era where it's all about scoring points, and the Miami Dolphins are struggling to score 14, 17 points in a game. But now you sit down in front of the screen or you're at the game and you're sitting there saying, hey, this team right here, they have weapons. They could score at any moment. And then going deeper into it, I've been talking since training camp. When I went out there and I laid eyes on Tyreek Hill for the first time, I sat there and said, insane. Yeah. Insane was the tweet that I sent out. First time I seen him, it only took 1 practice, and I knew what that would do against opposing defenses. It would stretch the field. It would make them run all over the place. So even going into the season, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, all right, if the Miami Dolphins at the half, the game is tied or close or they're losing a little bit, I said the action really won't happen until the second half. And that's when defensive players kind of lose a step. They slow down a little bit. But if you look at especially the 2 wide receivers of the Miami Dolphins, they maintain their speed throughout their entire game, and that's tough to defend. Like there's this saying out there that you give running backs he gets going like once he gets 20 carries.
Yeah.
And I don't look at it that way. I look at it as the defense slowed down a little bit, but he's been able to maintain his level. He's in that kind of shape. And I look at the 2 wide receivers and Waddle and Hill, and they are in excellent shape, even though, Hill cramped up a little bit yesterday. I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute, you don't cramp up down in Miami, but you cramp up in Baltimore? Like something is not right about that. But I just believe that the Miami Dolphins were able to maintain their level from start to finish, and that's what actually won them the game.
Yeah, Tua's stat line, it's really incredible.
Crazy.
36 for 50. And, we talked last week about how you remember week 1 for the Jets. Now, the Jets actually won their game week 2, but remember when right. Joe Flacco attempted 59 passes for the Jets week 1.
You're not supposed to be throwing the ball that much.
But listen, when Tua attempts 50 passes and things are going like that in the second half and in the fourth quarter, I'm fine with it. 36 of 50, 469 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, the 2 interceptions part of it, I think, only made it more impressive because, Troy, what were we all thinking at halftime? It was not looking good for the Dolphins offense, for Tua, through 2 first-half interceptions. And listen, I own it. I was pretty down on Tua at halftime, like I usually am.
You've been down on Tua since he got here.
I've been down on Tua since he got here. I was pretty down on Tua at halftime. I subscribe to the school of thought where I don't start tweeting out too many reactions until 4 quarters have been played. So I keep my mouth shut at halftime. But I see a lot of the other Tua skeptics out there are like literally trading Tua for Lamar Jackson at halftime. Like, can they just switch jerseys? Can we move on from Tua? And then he goes out there and he shut everybody up in that second half. But I love it when you've got a quarterback who's able to shake off early mistakes, when you've got a quarterback who's able to have that short memory. And listen, if this was a couple of years ago, Tua has a first half like that. If Brian Flores was still the coach, Flores might have gone to the bench. And then Tua has that in the back of his mind. I don't even know if I'll be able to finish this game because the head coach doesn't even have enough faith in me to get through 4 quarters. But this goes back to, I think, just the harmony that Tua and Mike McDaniel have, where McDaniel has coached this team up right since the second he took over, because he's such a positive individual. And I think he's inspiring because of his positivity, that Tua is able to put the first half struggles behind him and go out and have the best second half of quarterbacking I've seen in a Dolphins uniform in more than 20 years, if you know what I'm getting at.
His performance was outstanding. I don't know. I don't consider myself a body expert, body language expert, but I'm sitting there saying he just looks different. He's playing this game differently. I remember the one play down by the goal line where he spun around and avoided the defensive end and he threw the touchdown. I said, he made that spin move and he has done it before, but it was something different about it. He was in total control of what he was doing on that football field. And I actually think that they started sensing that they had the Baltimore Ravens defense. Like, they can't stop us. It's just up to us to execute and make things happen, because the Miami Dolphins were hitting on everything throughout the game. I think it was huge that they came out in that first drive in the second half and they actually went down the field and they put some points on the board. Because once you do that, because I think the 2 easiest drives to score in a football game is the very first drive. And Baltimore, forget it about a drive.
They didn't even need a drive.
They didn't need a drive, right? But it's that very first drive to start the game. And then it's that first drive in the second half. I think that says a lot about a football team. But the way the Ravens played, I'm sitting here saying, or we're looking at this as Dolphin fans, we're saying, wow, this might be the game that we may look back and say, wow, this was the coming of Tua. And I'm sitting there saying, if I'm a Ravens fan, you might be looking back now saying, uh-oh, this was the start of something bad for our franchise, because from everything we've been reading, last year, the Miami Dolphins took it to the Ravens defensively, right?
Yes.
No team has ever flustered Lamar Jackson the way the Miami Dolphins did last year. And it's almost like teams copied that the rest of the season last year. Baltimore kind of fell off. And it seems like we've been getting information that they've been working against this zero blitz. Miami Dolphins coming, teams have been copying it. So the Ravens were actually happy about, because the Miami Dolphins had zero sacks in the game, right? So you come off of that from last year, and I'm sitting there saying, wow, we can't get pressure on the quarterback. Xavier Howard, he got toasted one time in that game, but he didn't have his great game. He almost had that one pick for
that
6.
Pick would have
been,
and it's funny
game
because
over.
when he dropped that pick, you're thinking that might have been what the Dolphins needed to win this game, and they may not be able to come back because that would have been 6 points right there.
Like, will we get another opportunity? And I'm sitting there saying, okay, it's not the best performance defensively for the Miami Dolphins. And that takes me to, this is a sign that it's a very good football team, because either your offense is clicking or your defense is clicking. Very rarely do teams get both units to click, right?
Right.
So the Miami Dolphins, they're sitting there, and yes, they're struggling on the defensive side of the ball. They really can't slow down the Ravens, but the offense just kept trugging along. And then all of a sudden, it was key moments in this game, correct? Down at the goal line, they stopped them on 3rd and 1. They go forward on 4th and 1. They fumbled the ball. Can you imagine if that was Tua that had fumbled that ball right there?
Oh, I had 10 tweets in my drafts ready just in case something like that happened.
Absolutely. And then the Ravens, they go for it again on 4th down. They get stuffed again. So the defense, even though they didn't have the stellar Miami Dolphin defense of performance yesterday. They came up big when it was needed most, and that
Agreed.
energizes the offense as well. So it just kind of clicked for them.
And I love, and you're right about what you said about, obviously the offense set the tone. The defense stepped up in the fourth quarter when they had to. And I love how you go from 1 week, because in week one, it was really the defense that controlled that victory against New England. And then the offense gets their turn and they set the tone in week two. And I remember what Mike McDaniel said after the Patriots dub, where he told his players, this is still the defense's team until proven otherwise. Well, the offense got around. The defense took round one. The offense takes round two. We'll see if somebody or both can step up against Buffalo this week. We're going to keep breaking down the Ravens game before we get into Buffalo, of course. But that was truly, truly incredible. And, let's talk about these receivers, because it's really nice to have a tandem like this and all the speed. Somebody brought this up in the chat. I think it was this one, by the way. Steve says, I knew somebody had to get open. The Hill, Waddle, and Mostert combo, fastest team on Madden football. Then Gesicki working the middle. And so you look at the stat lines, Troy, for Hill and Waddle. I mean, almost identical, both deadly in the stat line. Tyreek Hill, 11 catches, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, average 17.3 yards per grab. Jaylen Waddle, 11 catches, 171 yards. He averaged 15.5 per grab, 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning touchdown. And, just Tyreek Hill's presence on the field gives Jaylen Waddle such an opportunity to showcase how dangerous he is, because who are you going to double? You've got such a dangerous combo, and Tyreek tends to be the guy who gets more attention from the opposing defense. That opens things up so much more for Waddle, but it's pick your poison, because if you're going to try to take one of those two out of the play, the other one's going to burn you. And and again, when your quarterback is playing as well as he did yesterday, and I'm so happy for Tua, and I want him to continue this because that was incredible. I didn't think he was capable of doing what he did yesterday. But if the quarterback plays that well and you've got weapons like that on the field, this offense is going to be a problem for everyone on the schedule.
There is no question about that. And again, I go back to my favorite word, which is execution. And when you watch yesterday's game, again, he had a different feel in the pocket. The Ravens only had 1 sack in this game, so kudos to the Miami Dolphins offensive line. So they're giving him time to throw the ball. But in situations where they actually came up with a little bit of pressure, Tua just found himself moving around the pocket, buying some time, keeping his eyes down the field, and hitting his wide receivers. So I made the comment also like 2 weeks ago when we started this, and I talked about it's kind of weird to talk about an offense that's going to stretch the field, not only, vertically, but from sideline to sideline. That's what the Miami Dolphins offensive wide receivers and the running backs with the speed, that's what they're doing. And that's a problem for defenses. And it's going to be a problem week in and week out. So again, don't start panicking in the first half if the game is close, because you could bet that defense is going to make a mistake somewhere in the second half, and hopefully the Miami Dolphins can continue to take advantage of that mistake that they made, because, Hill was wide open on both of his touchdowns, and you can't tell me that the Ravens didn't blow a coverage back there, or guys were just exhausted and they just couldn't run with him. That's the pressure that speed does to defenses, offenses as well, and the Miami Dolphins have plenty of it.
If I hadn't watched the game, and if somebody told me, hey, the Dolphins came back and won the game by 4 when they were trailing by 21 to start the fourth quarter, I would have assumed, the Ravens must have committed 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter, to give the Dolphins quick scores. I think that was really incredible that the Dolphins were able to erase a 21-point deficit in under 15 minutes, despite the fact that they didn't have any takeaways during that time. And again,
that's amazing.
That it's amazing. And it's what happens when you have somebody like Tyreek Hill who can score from 48 yards out and 68 and 60 yards out, that you can score points in bunches like that. And listen, you guys know that I live and die with the Canes and the Dolphins. And it was like night and day. And obviously there were reasons for it that go beyond, aggressive play calling, because, the Miami Hurricanes do not have good wide receivers right now. The Dolphins have arguably the best wide receivers in the NFL. But from watching the Canes on Saturday night to watching the Dolphins on Sunday, seeing how aggressive the Dolphins were, always taking shots into the end zone, including on that final drive where a lot of teams would have played for the tie, right? Send it to overtime. The Dolphins played for 7 and the win. Like, had that been the Denver Broncos coach, he would have been shitting his pants in that fourth quarter. Like, we gotta play Nathaniel Hackett. We better play for the tie and hope for the best. No, McDaniel has testicular fortitude. Clearly, Tua does as well. I love how aggressive they were taking shots into the end zone. So it's such a pleasing thing to see for this team. And man, I couldn't be happier right now, because again, they were able to do that without even getting a takeaway. We thought Xavier Howard had one for a second, and they were able to they outscored the Ravens. What was it? 28-3 in the fourth quarter. They outscored them to get that dub.
It's a luxury to have what the Miami Dolphins have on offense. I mean, we're going to be saying this all season long, because again, I cannot say it enough. Speed kills, and it's going to force pressure on you, coaches, that is, not the players, on the coaches, and it's going to force you to make a mistake somewhere along the way. And now the Miami Dolphins, they have everything mixing well together, so they're going to be able to take advantage of those whole things. And it was just a joy to watch. And again, I got to say, I'm watching this game, and even though the Miami Dolphins were getting their doors blown off, I still was in there. I wasn't sitting there saying they're going to win or anything of that nature, but I just felt something different watching this game. And kudos to the Miami Dolphins. And you talk about how that's going to bring a team together, the offensive unit and the defensive unit. Now they're sitting here saying, hey, if we slack or we're a little short here, they got our back. Offense is going to be there when they have a turnover or they give up 2 scores. They're going to go talk to the defense on the sideline. They're going to say, hey, just give it back to us. Get it back for us. Get it back to us, and we're going to make something happen. And defensively, if the defense gives up some scores, they're going to sit there and say, hey, we're still in this thing, because our offense can actually score some points, and they can score points fast, right? So I'm looking at this whole thing, and I'm saying the Miami Dolphins, they have something going on here, and it's the entire football team minus the kickoff return that they allowed there. But they have something going on here as a unit. That was a good plane ride home, I'm sure.
Oh, they probably wanted to get delayed, like on the runway. Like, you don't even mind.
No one sat down the whole trip. Yeah. It was just a nice little party on there. So kudos again to the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, and again, that could be a career-defining performance for Tua. And how about Mike McDaniel? I mean, what a way to start your head coaching career. He has arrived. Like, you get the head-to-head over Belichick the first week, but obviously it's not the Tom Brady Patriots. So some could say, oh, okay, well, you beat, a not great New England team. And then he goes out and, leads his team to a historic comeback in week 2, and he's 2-0. And Troy, like, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but it almost feels like the Dolphins are playing with house money at this point. Well, don't let me. But I'm just going to say this, because when the schedule came out, right, months before the season started, everyone looked at those first 4 games. So like, oh, you gotta go against New England week 1. You got to go to Baltimore. Then you've got to play Buffalo.
I got to interrupt you. Okay. So you're talking about the first 4 games, right?
Yeah.
I realized that the Miami Dolphins play Buffalo this week. I kind of realized that, I think, on Saturday or Sunday during the game. They brought up the fact that, the Bills are coming to town. But I don't know who they're playing the game after the Buffalo Bills.
Cincinnati.
I'm still at Cincinnati. See, I'm still focused like 1 week at a time.
Yeah, because you're a former player. Like, you approach things still like a player. I go
Totally
through
differently.
the whole schedule when it comes out, and I can already tell you exactly what the win-loss record is going to be.
When it comes to the Raven game, what did you have? A W or an L?
I had an L. I had an L for the Ravens game. I am probably more optimistic than some because I had them going 2-2 the first four. I had a W against the Patriots because I'm such a big Tom Brady fan. I don't believe in the garbage Patriots without Tom Brady. Belichick is a fraud, the whole thing. So I had a W against the Patriots. I had an L at Baltimore. I had an L against Buffalo coming up, and I think the Dolphins, and I still think it can beat Cincinnati. So I had 2-2, but a lot of people looked at those first four games and thought maybe 1-3, maybe they'll go 0-4. So being 2-0 the first 2 weeks, and I think they're going to get at least another one in these next four, hopefully next two. The Dolphins, I already feel like are playing with house money. This is a tremendous start.
Slow down. There you go. You just said you started this by saying, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. And here you are. Dolphins might get 3 out of the first 4. Like, slow down. Let's focus on the next game, which is Buffalo. Like Coach McDaniel said, he said, enjoy it tonight. Come back to work. We turn the page. We come up with a game plan defensively, offensively, and you go out there and you try and execute everything. And you see if you come out of there with a W.
I tend to agree with the way Devin approaches this, and thank you for the super chat. He says, after being down 21 points on the road and coming back, it's now confirmed that the Dolphins are Super Bowl bound, baby.
Slow down. Please.
All right.
One game at a time.
A couple people have already asked about this in the chat. I do have, and Troy, I'm so sorry for what this is going to do to your stomach, but I need to. I promised I would do this, okay? And this, I feel like I have multiple reasons to do this on today's show. Oh, and hold on. Shake Money, thank you so much for the super chat, sir. We're going to do it right here, the coffee. So this goes back to...
So what was, refresh my memory, what was the bet that you lost?
So the original bet was, it wasn't even, like, I'm stupid because I make bets with myself, which is like the worst thing you can do. But I made a promise on 5 Reasons Sports YouTube a few weeks ago that, because I'm a Gator hater, okay? And by the way, congratulations, guys, on your huge win against USF. That was you blew out you squeaked away against a powerhouse team. But the Gators have the same record as Miami. But before the Gators played Kentucky a couple weeks ago,
yes,
I wanted, of course, Kentucky to beat Florida so badly, which they did. But I promised that if Kentucky got the W and handed the Gators a loss, I would drink coffee the way that Kentucky quarterback Will Levis drinks coffee. He's a freak. He puts mayonnaise in his coffee. Now, I thought if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it like a true paisan because I don't really drink regular coffee. I drink espresso. Okay. So I made myself an espresso. I have here some Hellmann's. All right. And I know Troy hates mayonnaise. I'm going to try to do this in a way where you guys can actually see that I'm really doing it. And this is not some kind of a sleight of hand trick. Okay. So I'm so sorry, Troy. Oh. I'm going to dip into this mayo. I've got mayo in the spoon, as you can see. The mayo.
Please don't tell me it's good. Please do not tell me.
This is so disgusting. All right. So hold on. Just so you see, I'm not like switching out the spoon or anything. I'm putting the spoon in the cup. Oh my God, this is going to take a while to get this mixed in there. Oh, okay. Now it's like curdling. Oh, oh, this is so bad. Okay. All right. Hold on. Trying to get this mixed in there. All right. So I have, there's like bits of like mayo on the outside of the cup. Oh, this is so bad. All right. Hold on. I'm going to keep I did not fill the Hellmann's with whipped cream, you bastard. Scummy, I did. This is really mayonnaise in here, okay? Trust me, I'm not even creative enough to come up with some hoax. Like, it's easier to really do it than it is to fake it as far as I'm concerned, all right? So I've got the Hellmann's mayo in the espresso. Pray for me. Down. And okay, let me add real quick. The second reason why I feel like I need to do this is I deserve to be punished for doubting Tua Tagovailoa. Like I can't think of a worse punishment than an Italian American like myself mixing mayonnaise into my Lavazza espresso. This is a fate worse than death. Okay, so I need to do this. I need to punish myself for doubting Tua Tagovailoa And here you go, Brooklyn Rob. The disrespect to espresso is the same as your disrespect for Tua. So consider this like my communion, like to make up for my sins.
How hot is this drink here? How hot?
Well, it was hot at 3:29 p.m. when I made it. It's like
so you're not just taking a sip, right? Like
no, I'm gonna take the whole thing. Okay, hold on. You can see.
Okay.
I'm gonna go down the hatch, right?
Oh my goodness. How was it?
Oh, salty. Oh my God. I do not recommend. I do not recommend. Oh my word. I don't know how there's actually a human being on the planet who puts this in his coffee. Like,
I spent a little bit of time in Amsterdam, and I went to McDonald's, and they, instead of using ketchup on their French fries, they put mayonnaise. And I go, what is wrong with these people over there? But evidently people do it here in the States as well.
Oh, yeah, they do that in Italy as well with the mayo on the fries. This is so, and like I'm not like if Troy were to do this, like you would need to take a week off because you hate, like I don't hate mayo. Like I'll put mayo on a turkey sandwich. Like I'm not mayonnaise averse. Like I don't get too crazy with mayo, but I just chugged a shot of espresso. Like, I don't know, like the way that Levis does it in his coffee, maybe my coffee needed to be hotter because it was kind of like, it was lukewarm because I made it right before the show started. So like the mayo didn't mix in there very well. There was like lumps of it in there. But like the way that Levis does it, it almost makes it like, it's almost like cream in the coffee. But this is like, it's mayonnaise is like kind of salty. Like, oh, that was bad.
I got OJ McDuffie calling me like, Troy, we got to talk about the game. I'll hit him back, but
well, and on that note, okay, so I can confirm a suspicion that some of you had out there that, you know, the Tua, if you want to call me a Tua hater, like a Tua skeptics hater, whatever.
Mush.
Well, yeah, I am a mush according to Brooklyn Rob, but we do have like an organized society. Like we have like message groups together where, you know, we complain about how bad Tua messed up this week. It's very quiet the last couple days, of course, but like, I kid you not, like personal friends of mine who are just, if you think that I've ever been mean about Tua in the past, like think about the things I've said, which are pretty benign times 1,000, you know. And yet yesterday, Troy, I kid you not, I received text messages from two separate individuals who are big time Tua haters. Like I'm talking like the type of Tua haters that would actually rather the Dolphins lose just so Tua gets debunked. I'm not one of those people. I've always wanted.
Right. Okay.
So they put their hatred for the quarterback over the team's success. I've never been that guy. I always wanted Tua to succeed. I've always wanted Tua to win. But two different people who are in that category both sent me texts yesterday. I assume they weren't in cahoots with one another, confiding in me that they may actually come around on Tua, that they're actually starting to feel better about the quarterback. So that goes to show you what an amazing, they definitely want to see him throw 6 touchdowns in a game multiple times this year, I think, but they're coming around. That goes to show you how great that performance was.
No question about it. And listen, if he goes out there and he lays an egg next week, everyone would just sit there and say, see, I told you, he got lucky the game before. But I just look at it, and again, approaching this season, I said, college football for Tua playing at Alabama with all of that talent, they made it look easy. They went through games, they made it look easy. Why? Because they were better than their opponent, because they had more speed than their opponent. So now I'm looking at this as it's all coming together, and I'm sitting here saying, Miami Dolphins have talent now. As long as that offensive line, because the wide receivers were can't miss. Can't miss. As long as the offensive line gives him enough time to throw, he will look like the quarterback that he was in Alabama. And I'm not going to move off of that. And listen, I will admit also, I was sitting there saying, I don't know if Tua is the guy. And I had an argument today. I don't know if it was an argument, just a back and forth debate with a former teammate of mine. Because I go, so what do you think now? Because he still questions Tua. He goes, he's still not the guy. And I go, dude, is there anything that's going to change your mind? What, does he have to do this 3-4 games in a row, which is almost impossible to do?
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, but dude, open up your eyes and look at the entire picture. Okay? Look at the entire picture of what they put together. And that's a dangerous offense out there that the Miami Dolphins have.
Yeah, no doubt. Hold on, if I'm looking at my phone because I want to pull up some of the Prize Picks numbers for today, and hopefully they have something up
We
for
got 2
next
games
week.
tonight.
Yeah, we got the old Monday night doubleheader. Don't you like that?
I like it.
Hold on. For some reason I got locked out of my Prize Picks. This is
We
great.
have
Great content here.
we have Buffalo travel week. They're playing on Monday night. That kind of makes out to be pretty good. Advantage to the
I was
Miami
thinking
Dolphins.
about that. I was thinking about that. How with Buffalo, they've got the short week and they've got to come down to South Florida, and the Dolphins don't have to. They don't have to travel this week.
That's a tough journey. That's a bad little. And I'm sure when the schedule came out, they looked at that and they said, "All right, how are we gonna navigate this whole thing here?" So when you think about it, the Buffalo Bills really will have one day of practice to get this all together. And so the Miami Dolphins have to take advantage of that if they can. Plus, throw on top of that the third element, which will be the heat. It's still going to be hot down here.
Yeah.
And Buffalo, they're already 30 degrees or something like that up there in Buffalo. So it could be advantage to the Miami Dolphins.
All right, so I got my Prize Picks open. I want to remind people the awesome sponsor of this program and one of the great partners with the 5 Reasons Sports Network is Prize Picks. If you haven't been on Prize Picks, you've already missed out on the most part of 2 weeks. You do have a couple Monday night games tonight, but you've already missed out. But get that FOMO and get into it, because I'm telling you, Troy and I, we've been playing Prize Picks all season so far. I've won more than I've lost, which is nice. I passed on it. I didn't take Tua's over last week, but the over was 235 passing yards for Tua. Smashed it for those of you who took the over on. I will never doubt Tua ever again. But Prize Picks, it's so easy, guys. Sign up on the Prize Picks mobile app or prizepicks.com. Very easy to deposit and very easy to win money. And when you make your first deposit, make sure you use our code 5. That's FIVE. They're going to ask you when you sign up, do you have a referral code? You do, FIVE. And they're going to double your first deposit up to $100. They're going to put $100, up to $100 free in your account on top of the money you put in. And you simply select 2, 3, 4, or 5 players, predict if they're going to go over or under their fantasy projections or various stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you win money. You can win 20 times your money. So I'm looking at tonight, the quarterback matchups this evening. So we have our old pal Ryan Tannehill going up against Josh Allen, who we're going to see next week. The over
1 interception.
Yes. So the over-under for Tannehill is just 213.5 yards. The over-under for Josh Allen is 262.5. What are you thinking there? Because I don't know. I think Tannehill may go over 213.5. I think Josh Allen may go over 265 or 262 as well.
And where is this game tonight? It's in Buffalo.
Yes.
I'm going to say both quarterbacks are going to go over. I think the Buffalo, but Tennessee is going to have to throw the ball because I believe Buffalo will have the lead in this game, and due in part because of their quarterback, of course. And so I believe that Tennessee, unless they're going to sit there and try and run it down Buffalo's throat, but Buffalo has an excellent defense, that ball is going to be in the air quite a bit tonight. So I'm going to say both are going to go over.
I like it. For the other Monday night game tonight, we have Jaylen Hurts with Philly, 235.5 is his over-under for passing yards. and Kirk Cousins from Minnesota, who's, quietly had a very nice run in Minnesota. His is 275.5, though. A very high number. Anytime I see a number that high, usually, unless it's Tua, because Tua is going to smash 450 every week. Unless it's Tua. If I see a number that high, 275, I might just sit it out just because there's a lot of risk, because 275 is a lot. But what do you think about Kirk Cousins, 275.5, and Jalen Hurts, 235.5?
Kirk Cousins, I'm kind of going over on that. 275. And then who's the other quarterback?
Jalen Hurts from Philly.
Oh, Jalen Hurts. He's dangerous also, but his number was not as high.
I mean, don't forget, Jalen Hurts got benched by the greatest of all time, Tua Tagovailoa. And not only did he get benched by Tua, he had to transfer schools. He had to get out of the state, Troy. The state of Alabama was not big enough for him and Tua. He got the hell out of there, went to Oklahoma.
He did well going to Oklahoma, did he not? He absolutely did well.
He did all right. You know what? If I played quarterback for Lincoln Riley, I could probably throw for 250 a game. He's such a good offensive coach.
See, so you're giving a lot of credit to the system when it comes to, offensive coaches and, again, back to the Miami Dolphins. But I'm going to go under on that one.
Okay. I like it.
I made a 5-team. I always get in trouble because I'm like, Troy, you're not an expert. Cap it at 2. If I could cap games at 2, whether it's on a nightly basis or a weekly basis, I'll make a lot of money. But no, I'm greedy. I want to get it all. And so I had a 5-team, and I missed with I had Baker Mayfield throwing 1 INT. And he didn't throw INT. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
And you would think, because usually Baker Mayfield's good for a couple of interceptions.
Good for one or two, right? Yeah, and all he had to do was get one, but so go.
I would have done the exact same thing. So for next week's Dolphins-Bills game, they don't have next week's over-under for Josh Allen yet because he plays tonight. I guess they don't want to confuse people to take the wrong game. So we don't have Josh Allen's for next week, but they do have Tua's over-under for next week against Buffalo. A measly 250.5 yards. I mean, he's going to get that in the fourth quarter alone, Troy.
I was about to say, he's probably going to get that in the first quarter.
Well, no, he usually starts slow and finishes. Yes. He'll probably have an interception in the first quarter, and then everyone's like, Tua, what are you doing? And then he's going to throw for 270 yards in the fourth and win the game.
This is going to be a big game this week for the Miami Dolphins. And the way I look at this, don't start too slow against Buffalo because Buffalo will just keep rolling at you on both sides of the football. So it should be a nice little matchup between these two teams. Absolutely.
Like it. So, guys, make sure you sign up. PrizePicks.com or the PrizePicks mobile app. All you do, it takes under 60 seconds to make your selections, win real money. You can win cold, hard cash on the PrizePicks mobile app, PrizePicks.com. Just make sure you sign up with our code 5. That's FIVE at prizepicks.com. What do you think? And Troy, you know this better than any of us having played the game. Woodson asks, would you rather the Bills win tonight and come down here big-headed or lose tonight and come down here hungry for a win? Now, from my perspective, I would rather the Bills win tonight so they come down here a little cocky on a short week. I think if they lose tonight, they're a little bit more motivated, divisional game coming up. I think you have the better opportunity to catch them off guard if they win tonight.
See, I can't wrap my brain around that. I don't think 1 week has anything to do with the next week. I may start to sound annoying when it comes to that, but Buffalo is going to play tonight, and then they're going to turn the page. They're going to get the next day off, or they may go in and watch the film. Shucks, coach might say, depending on how tonight's game goes, he might just sit there and say, hey, we're not even watching this film. We're not going to correct our mistakes. We're going to turn the page because it's a short week. So I don't think win or lose it has anything to do with one or the other. Donno, I can't wrap my brain around that. I
I
just
understand it.
cannot do it.
It's one of those things. I think fans overthink this stuff. But like another example, I had a really bad feeling about Texas A&M when they lost to Appalachian State because I thought, oh, they're going to take it out on Miami the following week. But really, I think the Hurricanes shot themselves in the foot more than anything because some of the dumb errors that they made. But fans think about that stuff, Troy, and that's why
Yes.
I like to get the perspective of somebody who actually has gone through this process on the field on
Right.
Sundays because fans think about that stuff. Like, is it better if this team wins or loses? That stuff goes through my mind all the time. And yeah, I agree with this, of course, from In Date. He says, own the line of scrimmage. You're winning on Sunday. And that reminds me of some, just blocking wise, some of the unsung heroes from last week. Greg Little at right tackle.
Yes.
Austin Jackson, don't even bother coming back, bro. You've lost your spot. Take your time. Greg
He
Little
played
is the
well.
one now. And Alec Ingold at fullback, he was really critical.
Yes. I like how the Miami Dolphins pulled the same play against them that the Ravens used with the tight end getting under to get the little, 1 yard. Miami Dolphins came back the next series and they did the same thing. I said, all right, I kind of like that. One up you. We got it. We got it. I like McDaniels. He's doing an excellent job. His demeanor on the sideline was totally different than anything that we've seen around here. I can't recall another coach being that calm no matter what the situation was, and it's starting to reflect. Like you didn't see guys on the team like losing their minds or anything. They just stayed focused. And now Coach McDaniel could go in there and say anything to that team, and they're going to believe it. They're going to sit there and say, all right, I'm in. Hey, things start going bad. Don't get down. Don't ever put your head down. Let's just move on to the next play and let's get it done. And that's a nice formula. Everything is good when it's new until it's bad and it's over.
Right.
That's
no,
it.
It makes sense. This was Brooklyn Rob's reaction to me drinking the Mayo coffee. If anyone's just tuning in, if that's something you're interested in seeing me do, watch the episode replay. I did it about, 10, 15 minutes ago. I owed it. It was a bet that I had to pay off. I had to be like Kentucky quarterback Will Levis. I had to drink mayonnaise in my coffee. I did it. I survived it, but I'm still like, and Troy, this was, 10 minutes ago or more that I did this. I still taste it. Like I'm going to.
Thanks for reminding me. Hey, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The best tandem of wide receivers in the history of the Miami Dolphins, minus the two guys that are playing right now, were who?
Duper and
That's
Clayton.
an easy one, right? Duper and Clayton.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that Duper and Clayton never in their long career has any of them caught 11 passes in a game?
Really?
Neither one of them. And never did they play in a game where they both scored 2 touchdowns.
So you're telling
me how great, how great those guys were.
Yeah, they should be Hall of Famers. They should be.
Never happened with those two guys, and yet they go out there yesterday and they post these numbers, ridiculous numbers. And I'm sitting there like when I read that today, because I'm not a big stat guy. I'm really not a big stat guy. Besides the turnovers, right? Turnover to touchdown ratio, I pay attention to that. But when I saw that, like when this show is over, I'm going to text Clayton and I'm going to say, dude, do you know? Because after I saw back to training camp, when I saw Tyreek Hill, when I got home, I text Clayton and I said, dude, he has speed that's incredible. So he has that duper speed. And I said, he has the hands like that you have. And he has the little shake game that you have. I said, so he has everything that the two of you have. And he said, okay, all right, I'll pay attention to it. So I got to go have a conversation with him.
There was this great moment in the post-game presser when Tyreek Hill spoke yesterday. So Kim Bokamper asked him, because he had cramps and he left the game and came back, and Kim Bokamper asked him this, it's basically a softball question of what gave you the drive and the motivation to come back in the game from the cramps, and then he was just like, That's just how I was raised, dog. That's what he said. It's like, I loved it. I was laughing so hard. I'm like, that's my dude.
Like, really? This is my job, man.
That's how I was raised. Yeah, it's like, I'm getting paid a lot of money to do this. He could have also
the
said.
game is not over. There's still a lot of ball out there, so I got to go back out there and get it done. Absolutely.
Oh, man.
I mean, I found it interesting also how he was doing a national recap right after the game. And the young lady asked or said how Tua has 6 touchdowns. And he was like shocked. He was like, what? He has 6 touchdowns. And then,
really?
He starts going off like, oh, yeah, and all of that. And I'm sitting there saying, part of that is the focus that players have during the game. Now, every athlete knows his own personal stats throughout a game.
Yes.
No matter what they tell you, Dwayne Wade knew he had 38.
Especially basketball players. Basketball players are bigger divas than football players.
Because they got that big screen right there, and they're always looking at it. But football players also, my first carry, I get 10 yards. I say, oh, I'm on my way to 100. And you just do the math, and you're within 5 yards, give or take, throughout the game. But for him to sit there and say, I didn't even realize that just, again, shows me how focused they are on the task at hand. And, when he says something, when I hear something like that, it just takes me back again. I'll let you in on something. I've had this conversation with a number of athletes, and they've had this during the course of a game. I find this like fascinating. Other guys might say, so what? During the course of a game, I hear the crowd throughout the game. I'm in the huddle. I hear the crowd. Sometimes the offense goes up to the line of scrimmage and they got to quiet the crowd because you hear all of that noise. Mm-hmm. Soon as the play starts, total silence.
Really?
For me, it was total silence, but I could hear my teammates, Troy, this way or that way. And to me, that's just like being focused at the task at hand. That's how involved and engrossed you are in that football game at that moment, that it could just 80,000 people, 70,000 people you could block it out just like that.
I love it. Hold on. Let me thank again our super chats from today. Shake Money, you are the man. And I did drink the coffee, and I will never be doing that again. I kind of wondered in the back of my mind, like, maybe I'll like this. Like maybe I'll be like Levis and I'll put mayo in my coffee. No, I will not ever do that again. It was horrible. I don't know how any human being does that.
You know what that reminds me of? Like one of those days when you're in the house and you're hungry.
Yes.
and you really don't have anything. So you start making a sandwich and you put whatever you have in the house on the sandwich. That's what that drink right there sounds like.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I think like stoners get the munchies. I've had insomnia for my whole life, so I've been known to take Ambien, and that's one of those things where like when you're on an Ambien, you get like hunger and you get these weird late night cravings, and like I will discover things like I discovered, and in the last 11 months I've lost 60 pounds, so I've had to cut down on some of this stuff. Yeah, I used to be pushing 250. Now I'm pushing 190. Like, it's
man.
Yeah.
Good for you,
but I remember one of the great combinations I discovered one night a long time ago on Ambien is you take a strawberry Pop-Tart, you make it the way you would, you toast it up, but then you put extra strawberry jam, like a thick layer of it on top of the Pop-Tart. Fan-freaking-tastic. Like, I'm telling you, because you think about like the Pop-Tart, it never has quite enough filling in there. Like it's always like, this would be so much better if it had more filling. So I had this like Ambien hunger craving at like 2 a.m. A couple years ago. And I'm like, hey, this Pop-Tart is not enough unless I put more like Smuckers on top of it. So good. So good.
Not with a Pop-Tart, but I've been there like, what else do I have? What can I find to put on this sandwich or whatever? So I've had some weird combinations as well. I think we all have.
Yeah, no doubt. Devin Jordan, huge thanks for the super chat. His mouth to God's ears right there. Dolphins headed to the Super Bowl. Oh man. Oh, by the way, I wanted to thank this dude. I think this is the same Adrian G, who I want to see if I have it in here. So he actually made me a hat, a Dolphin hat. The reason why I don't wear it on a lot of streams is because the Dolphin logo like screws up with my green screen and it's like translucent. But hold on, let me see if I can find it. I'll show you this hat that he made me. Hold on.
I'll just keep everyone entertained while you're going. Miami Dolphins about to win the next
Because he
five in a
knows
row.
he knows that I like to wear these hats, these
Oh,
Peaky
very
Blinders
nice.
style. You see, and he actually I'm pretty sure this is the same dude, Adrian, who did it. Like there could be other Adrian Gonzalez's in the world, but I think this is the one. He made me this hat, and it's fantastic. You can see how you can see the sky over Hard Rock Stadium on the Dolphin logo.
The style of, oh man, why am I drawing a blank? Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the head coach.
Bruce Arians, the former
Bruce
coach.
Arians.
Yeah.
Yes. Very nice hat.
Yeah. So
I
thanks
could
again.
sport one of those. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I like them. Yeah. Oftentimes I'll wear like a black one or a gray one, and this is nice. Like the next time I go to a Dolphin game, because I have not been to one this year, because I go to every Canes home game, and once you start to be pushing 40, like me, it's like okay, I can only handle so much excitement in one weekend. So like when a week comes where they're not at home the same weekend, I'm going to go out to a Dolphins game. And I'm going to sport this hat along with one of my many Tua jerseys. I'm going to decide which one to wear on that.
I don't know if I'm going to the Dolphin game this Sunday, but I will say this: fantastic experience going to a game, right? Seeing the game live, feeling it, everything. But when I go to a game, I miss so much because talking to this person or talking to that person, and I'm like, okay, can I watch the game? So, although the best part about going is, we slept in that alumni box, and I found it so informative when I sit next to a former player who played defense.
Oh yeah.
They say things that I never thought of. And I go, oh my God, I never thought of that. Or I ask them, what did you see there? What did you see there? And then vice versa, they'll say the same thing. I'm like, I could call out the covers. They'll call out the formation. He can only do this. He can only do that. So it is absolutely like a joy to go and to be a part of that. But I think this week I'm going to be right here in front of the screen.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I like to watch the bigger games on TV because and also I get so emotional when I'm watching big games that like I don't like to be around a lot of other people. Like it's one thing, like a lot of times I'll watch games with my father because like he's like so blunt when he's watching games and he'll notice things that I don't notice sometimes because I'm like on Twitter half the time during the game and he's like watching. He doesn't know what Twitter is, so he's watching very intently. But yeah, like if I'm like frustrated and nervous and I'm around thousands of other people, it just makes me uncomfortable. Like I like to be by myself with my thoughts when I watch the really, really big games. But yeah, listen, this is always fun doing shows with you, Troy. And always. I want to say it to you and to every Dolphin fan out there. Let's enjoy this, guys, for a few more days. I know from Miami, they're already on to the next one. They probably the 24-hour rule. Is that a real thing, the 24-hour rule, where like you enjoy a win? That's a real thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you enjoy it for a day and then you move on to the next one.
Because you go in and next you know, they got a game plan in front of you and you start focusing on that next game. So you don't have to. If you're sitting there, you heard the little, saying, oh, he's reading newspaper clippings. Now it's, oh, he's reading how good he is online. If you're doing that, you're not focused on the next opponent because sports could be so humbling. You can have a great game, Tua, last week, and then this week you could go out there and, quote unquote, shit the bed.
How dare you doubt the man? How dare you?
I think he has too much talent to doubt him right now.
I love it. Oh, man. So, yeah, huge shout out. Everybody who was in the live chat, thank you so much. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, the like button, subscribe to 5 Reasons Sports YouTube if you haven't already. For those in here who are also Miami Hurricanes fans, make sure to check out the daily show that I do called Locked On Canes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And we will talk to you guys again next time on another episode
Sounds good.
of the Extra Yard
Sounds good.
of the Extra Yard for Troy Stradford. Let me see if I can point the
Don't
right
know.
direction. This is like always reversed. I think I'm pointing one way for Troy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's like, yeah. So I got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pointing the opposite direction than I'm pointing at you.
I got you.
For Troy, I'm Donno. We'll talk to you guys again on another episode of the Extra Yard,
Peace.
part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. See ya.
Later.